This eternal and infinite source that we can draw upon, maybe we called it the soul, maybe we called it the Holy Spirit, creates in us a new pair of glasses, a new way of reading not just ourselves, but everything else. And that set of eyes can deal with exceptions, contradictions. It can forgive, it can understand, it can be compassionate. It doesn't search for perfect order. Please don't take my word for it. Go to the Gospels. Where was Jesus an insister upon perfect order? He deals with disorder. He has no trouble with disorder. He doesn't care if they're Syro-Phoenician or Roman centurions or lepers or prostitutes. All the people outside his system, he goes right toward them. Quite simply, Jesus goes to wherever the pain is. Not where the theoretical truth is, where the pain is. That's a very, very different gospel. And thank God it includes all of us. It utterly levels the playing field. Because, brothers and sisters, we all have pain, if we're honest. Now, there's no superiority system to enlightenment. There's no worthiness contest. There's no climbing the ladder of moral achievement, hoping one day we'll get there when no one really does. We let God come to us the way Jesus came into the world, into the place of the wounds and the place of the pain. I'd like to end with one poem, maybe two, because I've learned after so many years of trying to preach and teach that prose is almost by necessity dualistic. And so it just sets people up to, I agree with him on that, I don't like that. You know, it's all the judging mind takes over, I like that, I think he's heretical there. You know, it's just, you get nowhere. You know? Whereas poetry doesn't allow you to do that, you know, because we know we only half understand it, if we're honest. And so the soul and grace are able to fill in the gaps. And we're a little more patient. We're not so judgmental. We don't push the river quite as much. We let the river include us in the flow. And the two poems I'm going to use are from probably a lesser-known poet to many of you, a man named William Stafford. The first poem is called The Way It Is. And it's from his book of poetry called The Way It Is. There's a thread you follow. It goes among the things that change, but it doesn't change. People wonder about what you are pursuing, and you have to explain about the thread. But it is hard for others to see, especially if they haven't grasped the thread themselves. It is hard for others to see. But I tell you this, while you hold it, you can't get lost. Tragedies will happen, people will get hurt or die, and you yourself will suffer and get old. Nothing you do can stop time's unfolding. Just don't ever let go of the thread. So, this talk of enlightenment and salvation is telling us that there is a thread. It's already in you and flowing through. You're already connected. You're already inherently connected by what Bede Griffiths would call the golden string. And your only job is don't let go of it. Don't doubt it, really. And everything militates against believing that there is a thread, because we all get caught up in the externals and successes and games of the moment. And so we have to find some spiritual practice. Silence and solitude are still the best. Some understimulation, so you keep being conscious of the thread that's already there. You don't create the thread, as he says. It's already there. But you have to explain to other people about the thread. People wonder what you are pursuing. There is a thread you follow. It goes among the things that change, but it doesn't change. Salvation is telling you that there is a golden string, and you are already strung up inside of it. Let me give you one more, and we'll end on this, also from William Stafford. He says, "You reading this, be ready." That's the name of the poem. You reading this, be ready. Starting here, right now, salvation is always now. If you don't get it now, you know what? You're not going to get it when you go to Mass tomorrow. Do you know that? You're not, because you're going to bring the same mind to Mass tomorrow that you have right now. So you might as well get it now, you know. Starting here, what do you want to remember? How sunlight creeps along a shining floor. The scent of old wood, how it hovers. A softened sound from outside that fills the air. Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? The breathing respect. And I'm going to stop in the middle of the poem to give what I try to give to every group in the last 5 years. It's the second chapter of the Naked Now book, but if you might not get that, let me tell you about it. I was at a conference on science and religion and consciousness a few years ago. There was a Jewish rabbi teaching who was also a scientist. He said, "You know, you Christians, you never understood the commandment, 'Do not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain.' You thought for some strange reason it meant you're not supposed to say, 'God damn you.' He said you shouldn't say, 'God damn you.' That's not a very nice thing to say. But that's not the meaning of the commandment. The meaning of the commandment is don't use the name of God at all. We don't know how many centuries, he says, we observed it, but we knew that the sacred name Yahweh was never to be pronounced with our lips." What humility at the beginning of religion. What Jewish genius. Don't talk about it, because then you'll think you understand what you're talking about when you use the word God. So don't use it. And during that period, we developed the words Adonai and Elohim for the name of God. It was only the Jerusalem Bible, many of you remember, in the 1960s, that started daringly using the word Yahweh. And Catholics in the 60s used to say, "Who's this Yahweh?" You know? I knew this much as he went on to teach, that when you write Hebrew, you only write the consonants. And what it means to be an educated person is your mind automatically fills in the appropriate vowels. He said, "Do you know that when you correctly pronounce the consonants used in the sacred name, it in fact does not allow you to close your lips or to use your tongue? In fact, if you perfectly pronounce the word Yahweh, it will imitate the sound of inhalation and exhalation." Oh my God. This could change your life. I hope it does. It changes your prayer life, because this means you've been praying, maybe not consciously yet, since the moment you came out of your mother's body. And there will be a final stating of the name of God before you die. Then, you're only the second crowd I've told this to, because I just learned it last month. In Chicago, I had a Muslim in a class, a Sufi Muslim. And he said, "Do you know our sacred name, Allah? Do you know what it means?" I said, "Well, it's your word for God." He said, Al, A-L, is the same as the Spanish word for el, or the. When you put a second L behind it, it means the very. And then behind that you put an apostrophe and the H. He said, literally, The sacred name for God is, listen closely, the very That's the meaning of Allah. The very Now let's go back to the poem. We didn't know God was this accessible, did we? We didn't know that God was as available as the breath. And to remind you, there's not a Catholic or a Protestant way of breathing. Did you know that? There's not a Catholic or there's not a Chinese or an American way of breathing. There's not a gay and a straight way of breathing. There's not a black and a white way of breathing. It's available and given like grace itself. And you could almost say we were afraid to be human, we were afraid to breathe. Will you ever bring a better gift for the world than the breathing respect that you carry wherever you go right now? Are you waiting for time to show you some better thoughts? And we all are. It's always out in front of us. When you turn around, starting here, lift this new glimpse that you have found. Carry it into the evening. All that you want from this day. This interval, these few moments we've now had together, this interval that you spent reading or listening to me, keep it now for life. What can anyone give you that is greater than this right now? Starting here, right in this room, when you turn around. Thank you.